A lot of you are gonna hate this one, but building wealth doesn't have to take a lifetime. Sure, being a millionaire in your 60s is amazing. However, having that same financial freedom in your 30s is exponentially better. And take it from someone who's managed to do that. Now, of course, I wasn't born into money. Far from it. I come from an immigrant family, just one generation away from the rice fields. The odds were always stacked against me. I still remember growing up, every couple of years, my dad would be coming home from yet another layoff. The company would restructure, and we as a family would have to start all over again. And that's when it hit me. Working hard doesn't necessarily mean stability. See, we were sold a dream as kids. Get good grades, go to a good school, get a good job, work hard, save what you can, and it'll all just kind of work out. But that advice is exactly what will not work out when it comes to building true wealth. The fact of the matter is, this system that we're in was never built for people like you and I to get ahead. We were just always meant to be another cog in the machine. But once I figured out how the system works, how money actually multiplies, that's when everything changed. And in this video today, I'm gonna reveal for you what I wish someone taught me as I was growing up. And that is the exact 3-step blueprint to building wealth starting from zero. And trust me when I say, if someone like me with zero access to any connections or money or any of that is able to do this, you can as well. Step 1. This is the foundational step. This lays the groundwork. This, in my opinion, is the most important step. It's also the most obvious step, but for some of you, it might be the most difficult step, and that is earn money. You see, everyone wants to be wealthy, but there is a massive difference between someone who has $100,000 in the bank versus someone who has $1 in the bank. No. You know what? You're right, that was kind of dumb. My point being, when $100,000 grows at 10% a year, you get $10,000. When a dollar grows at 10% a year, you get 10 cents. So how do we get that first $100,000? Well, there's two options. You can either cut expenses or increase your income. The easier option for all of us is just to cut expenses. Get rid of that daily Starbucks, the overpriced gym, your Netflix subscription. But the problem that you'll see very quickly, and the one that I ran into, is that you can only cut so much because there's a baseline level of money we need to spend to survive. Now, in theory, you could cut it all to zero if you move back home and you spent nothing, but in practice, it just doesn't work. So instead, I want you to focus on the growth side because that limit is uncapped. It also happens to be the first step of this blueprint, earn money. And my first practical piece of advice to earn money, get a job. Seriously, that's your idea? Oh, I'm being dead serious. The surest way for you to earn money is to get a job. And I'm not talking about what you hear from the online gurus of the side hustle here or there. No. Focus on the main hustle. And if you're lucky enough to still be in college and you still are picking your college major, get a major that pays you. Listen, no shade on underwater basket weaving, but that is a BS major that's not gonna get you paid. And there are a ton of other absolute just trash majors. Instead, focus on majors that translate into direct job opportunities that pay good money. Engineering, accounting, those are real money jobs. And when it comes to jobs and money, what I want you to focus on and what made me successful is non-linear pay scale jobs. Meaning, a job that doesn't just pay you a fixed amount of money for a certain number of hours worked. For me, I was lucky enough to stumble across this, but I'm telling you this right now, sales. Now I know sales might not be for everyone, and honestly, when I first started, I didn't think it was for me either, because I always thought of sales as this sell me this pen or the pushy car salesman. By the way, nothing wrong with that. However, the area of sales I stumbled into is called business to business software sales. And it's a lot more like a consulting gig where you're basically trying to figure out what is the problem of my customer. And then if I can figure out the problem, well, here's my solution, and I match it one-to-one. It's not high pressure sales tactic where you better sign now or it's never happening. And if there was one cheat code, this would be it. You can make an absolute metric ton of money without having to do the schooling of a doctor or a lawyer. Just as an example, as an enterprise account executive at the age of 27, I was making $250,000 with uncapped commission potential. I knew one of my colleagues who had a $700,000 year at the age of 29, which absolutely should blow your mind. The other thing you wanna focus on when getting that job is you want to negotiate everything. Of course, you wanna negotiate your salary. You can also negotiate PTO. You wanna negotiate benefits. All of it is up for grabs and you wanna get the best bang for buck out the door. Do not just accept the first offer that comes to you. Listen, when I first started, at my very first job ever, I negotiated for $3,000 more. I had no experience. I was a fresh grad, but what did I do? I just asked for more money. You'll be surprised at how far that gets you, and that is a critical life skill to pick up as early as possible. Now let's assume we're in the earn phase, but you already have a job. What can you do to get more money? Simply get a job that will pay you more money. And there's two ways to do it. The first one, switch companies. Folks, this is something that people shoot themselves in the foot all the time for, where they think they have to work for a company for life. You don't have to. In fact, you should be switching on average every 2 years. Here's a stat. Folks who stay at a company for 2 years or more, on average, earn 50% less money over their entire working career than people who actually make the switch. And just from my own personal experience, I ended up working for 3 separate companies within the span of about 6 years. I went from making $78,000 when I first started fresh out of college to $250,000. That's not gonna happen if I stay at one company. The other thing to pay attention to is when you're switching companies, I always prefer to go work for the largest possible household name that you can. Here is 2 tech sales roles that I pulled up. The first is from Gong, which is a mid-sized tech company. It has this account executive role where you can get paid anywhere from $160,000 to $210,000 OTE. Instead though, if you looked for a job from SAP, which is where I worked, one of the largest software companies in the world, an account executive role pays anywhere from $186,000 up to $397,000 OTE. Which would you rather? The other way to get a job that pays you more is to just fully switch industries. For example, tech pays a lot of money, like a lot of money. Look at these 2 jobs I pulled out. An account manager role, and this is pretty simple, right? Keep the account happy, keep the customer happy. You're just managing someone. This is gonna pay anywhere from $70,000 to $80,000 if you worked at Randstad, which I think is a staffing firm. If instead you got an account manager role at AWS, which is Amazon's cloud service, you could be paid anywhere from $83,000 to $177,000. The base pay for this account manager role is higher than the top tier for the other account manager role that's not in tech. And in my personal experience, when I first graduated, I was working for a pharmaceutical company in pharma sales, where the pay cap was about probably $180,000 or so. I realized very quickly, if I'm gonna be selling, I wanna make more money. And guess where there's uncapped commissions? Software sales. And so I made that pivot after 2 years where like, hey, listen, I'm gonna take a slight pay cut going from $78,000 to $75,000 a year, knowing that my upside potential is way higher. And guess what? I absolutely nailed it because within 5 years of that, I was at a $250,000 pay package, which is insane for someone under the age of 30. And that absolutely would not have been possible if I was not working in tech. The next thing in this earn step you wanna focus on are raises. Specifically, you wanna negotiate for every single raise. Don't just take the inflation adjustment they give you every single year, which is anywhere from 2 to 4%. Go in at the end of every year if you feel that you deserve more than the base 2 to 3%, which by the way, is just the cost of living adjustment, it's not a raise. Make your case for it. The worst thing they could say is no, and you just get 2 to 3%. The best case is you might get 5, 6, 8, 10%, all because you made a case for it, you came in with your performance review, you came in with the data, and you asked for more money. Now let's talk about how long we're gonna stay in step 1 before we progress to step 2. Quite honestly, this is a lifetime journey. You're always going to be wanting to earn more money. However, when you're first starting out in the wealth building phase and accumulation phase of your life, this is where you want to spend the most to make sure that you got everything lined up correctly. Because I'll be honest, you're not coming out the gate making $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year. Just not happening unless you're a couple edge cases. For most folks, you're probably starting at $30,000. $50,000, $70,000 a year. The ultimate goal here is to position yourself into a stable and high-paying career. Can you go from making $20,000 to $40,000? Can you go from making $50,000 to $70,000? Can you go from making $90,000 to $120,000? By being able to make these incremental leaps, there is now so much more money that we're able to play with, leading into step 2 of this plan. And step 2 is invest. Now that you have a steady stream of income and the foundation's built, this is where the fun part starts. Because for the first time, you no longer have to trade time for money. You no longer are working for your money. You're now starting to see your money work for you. The first thing you want to keep in mind when investing is start as early as you can. For example, if you started investing with just $1 into the market and you put in nothing else, and you didn't touch the money until you retired at the age of 60, assuming 10% returns on average per year, you would have $45. Not bad. If, however, you waited until you were 30 to invest that $1, at the age of 60 when you retired, you'd only get back $17. So no matter how small the amount that you can invest, start as early as you can. And one of the first accounts that I would recommend folks to open up is a Roth IRA. This is one of my favorite accounts. It's tax advantage. So the money you put in is already going to be taxed. However, everything that's in there is going to compound and grow 100% tax-free. Next from there, you want to make sure that if your employer is offering you a 401k match or 403b match, you take 100% of the match, because that is a 100% return on your money. And of course, if you're maxing out those retirement accounts and you've got spare cash, get yourself a brokerage account. My point of advice, avoid the flashy ones. The Robinhoods, the Webull, the ones that throw confetti when you buy stocks, those are bad. They are literally designed to part you from your money because they gamify investing. Folks, I've been doing this for a long time, well over 15 years now. Investing is dumb simple. It should be the most boring thing. It should just be a thing that, once a month you're doing it and you're not checking it. Daily checking, daily trading, you lose money. Do not do that. I personally recommend Schwab, Vanguard, or Fidelity. As it comes to what we should be investing in, I use a very simple acronym. KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. And so, my recommendation in what I do, I buy low-cost, broad-based market index funds. The fact of the matter is, investing is not hard, it is not complicated. You don't need to read financial statements, you don't need to know how to read technical charts. All of that is marketing BS designed to part the everyday Joe from their money. Now, I can already hear it, all the comments screaming about how, well, it's at all-time highs now, should you really buy? Folks, for the majority of the time, the stock market is at or near all-time highs. And if it's not at an all-time high, it's off of its all-time high. You see how that is just kind of marketing BS? Here's the stat. Historically, the S&P 500 has spent 70 to 80% of its time at or within 5% of all-time highs. Meaning, yeah, for the most part, it is just kind of going up and to the right. In fact, a counterpoint. Just by missing the 10 best trading days in the last 40 years cuts your return by 50%. The next piece of advice I have for you when it comes to investing, automate as much of the process as possible. When the paycheck comes in and hits your checking account, have some of that money split off right into your investing account. Have automated buys set up. Because at the end of the day, for me, the less money I have sitting in my checking account, the less of an opportunity I have to do stupid things with that money. And the final piece of advice I want you to keep in mind when you're investing, diversify. As Warren Buffett once said himself, diversification is the spice of life. I'm just kidding. I don't think he actually ever said that. But the point is, diversification is your friend. And the easiest way to diversify your stock portfolio, or the Boglehead approach, the 3-fund portfolio. A slice of US stocks, a slice of international stocks, and a slice of bonds. If you're young though, you don't have to have that much bonds. And so the majority is gonna be divided between international as well as US stocks. Me personally, I'm at like a 70-30 split for US international. I ideally wanna get closer to 60-40. And as for ticker symbols, well, you can actually check out my video here where I actually did a deep dive into what specific tickers to look at. Step 3, scale and multiply. So now we've got base income established. We're investing our money so it's working for us. The next thing we need to do is we need more of all of it. And the best way is to have multiple streams of income. According to the IRS, 65% of millionaires have 3 streams of income or more. And when it comes to establishing multiple streams of income, there are 3 main ones to pay attention to. The first is earned income. This would be from your high-paying and very stable job. Some would actually add side hustles in here. Me personally, Focus on the main hustle. If right now you're at a manager level, can you get to a director level? Can you get to a VP level? Can you switch industries? Can you break into tech? Can you get that main hustle money up? Because trust me, that is the surest and quickest way to make the most amount of money. Now, I'm not saying you can't get it done on a side hustle, but the amount of YouTube videos I see promising that you can make $10,000 a month with whatever random side hustle, maybe after you've been doing said side hustle for many years, you're gonna get to that. But think about the hours and the time it commits to get there versus just, okay, you know what? This year I'm at a manager level at company A. Maybe I can get into director level at company B in a separate industry, and all of a sudden I'm making 20, 30% more. That is the best route any given day. So that's one, earned income. Two, we've got portfolio income. And within portfolio income, you have dividend income. So that is, you hold a stock and every single year, that stock pays you a dividend. And it's not just stocks, it's also index funds. For example, VTI, which is a total Vanguard market index fund, actually pays a dividend of a little over 1% every single year. In addition, here you also have capital gains income. So you purchase a stock, you sell the stock, that is capital gains. And the thing that I love about capital gains, it has its own tax bracket. In fact, if this year, the only income you made was from capital gains and you filed taxes as married filing joint, I believe you can make up to $131,000 in capital gains and you will pay 0% tax on that. What? If instead you made that $131,000 from a W-2 income with you and your partner, you'd only walk home with like $90,000 or so. The third broad category of income streams is passive income. Here, we want to look at something like real estate. Now, I'm not talking about your fix and flips. I'm not talking about your short-term rentals. Me personally, I'm talking about long-term buy and hold rental real estate. This, I believe, is probably the fastest and surest wealth accelerator for folks who honestly don't come from much. Because with rental properties, you are leveraged up to the teat, meaning I could do a multi-family house hack in Boston. I could basically buy a $1.3 million three-family. I come in with 3.5% down. The bank kicks in the rest. I can use 75% of the projected rental income from the other units where I am not occupying to also further help me qualify, and we're off to the races. Could you imagine that? I mean, imagine you wanted to buy $1 million of Apple stock and you just had $35,000 and you asked the bank for the rest. The bank would be like, no, you can go get your own $1 million. Whereas for rental properties, you come in with $35,000, the bank will kick in the rest, and you end up having the underlying asset in addition to the cash flow, in addition to all the depreciation write-offs and the tax benefits. It's an absolute no-brainer, in my opinion. Now, it's gonna take work, you're gonna have to be a landlord, but I think that trade-off is 100% worth it. And before I did the whole social media gig, that was my all. It was make as much money as I can from tech sales, take all of that money, or the majority of it, and invest it into long-term rental properties. And the last point I have for all of you, do your best to delay gratification. Lifestyle creep is going to absolutely kill your wealth accumulation, because when you make a little bit more and you want the nice car, want the fancy house, want more vacations, that's gonna slow you down. In fact, there's a stat that says over 70% of millennials making over $100,000 still live paycheck to paycheck. Folks, if you're making 6 figures a year and you live paycheck to paycheck, that's a shame on you. Because there's a base level of spend we have to do, and everything above that is a little bit flexible. So, the more that you can delay gratification and that you can keep expenses here and income as here, you can accelerate your wealth so much faster than those around you. And that is a video. How to grow your wealth significantly even while starting with $0. Hopefully it's been helpful. As always, if you have any comments or questions, drop them down below. If you have comments specifically around the real estate part or even the social media income side, I'm happy to answer those as well. And as always, I will catch you on the next one. Peace!